Hello, everybody. Looks like we have another interview coming out of Gamescom. I had kind of thought that the next barrage of interviews from Yoshi P was going to start coming out of PAX, but I guess we had a few more in the tank left from Gamescom. Um, this comes from PC Games N. It's the same Ken from the last time we read something from PC Games N. And this one has been a little bit controversial already, so I really wanted to talk about it a little bit. So let's kind of get into this. Final Fantasy XIV game director Naoki Yoshida says we'll have plenty of chances to show off our strength in the MMO's upcoming stories, but warns you that you might have to do some reading. Warrior of Light was supposed to be on vacation in Dawn Trail, and while they didn't pan out quite as we hoped. We still took more of a backseat to give the characters around us a chance to step up and grow. 7.2 and 7.3 make it increasingly clear that approach won't be possible moving forward. So we sat again with Yoshi P at Gamescom. Without getting into specific spoilers, there's a climactic moment in 7.3 that puts you right in the center of the action. It definitely got me cheering, and I saw a similar response from many people I watch experience in their own playthroughs. So is this approach something the team wants to keep doing? When it comes to expressing the unique role of the player as the hero, and in order to showcase really cool cutscenes and sequences where we can provide a real hero's experience and showcase the strength of the hero, we do want to put more focus on this moving forward. Yeah, that's really, really good to hear. That's something they want to put more focus on, because it was such a cool thing that happened in 7.3. I know I've talked about it in the past already, but so cool. Something I've wanted, the entire time I've played this game, is for us to have more moments where in a cutscene the Warrior of Light gets to participate in some of the action. I know it's difficult with so many jobs, and obviously they have to go back and like retro proof that or whatever with new jobs, but I'm really happy they're finally doing it. Part of the joy of 7.3's most triumphant action sequence is that you get a custom animation based on your job. It's not the only time in the patch that matters either. The new dungeon separates players out during one boss fight and hands them different combat tasks based on the role. Within the MSQ, we can't always provide a unique expression for the jobs in every patch. When it comes to using the jobs in battle content and bringing out more of that uniqueness of each job, we are working on a big update. Before Dawn Trail even launched, Yoshi P had teased he wanted to counteract class homogenization in an overhaul was planned for 8.0. As for what that will look like, he explains, people might think of it as an expansion of the system we have in game, so the players who already like the way things are can feel at ease that nothing is going to change for their experience. We are trying to do something new on top of what we already have. Yoshida says he's unable to share more on this at this time, and I doubt we'll get much news, at least until FanFest 2026. He emphasizes, in terms of the individual of each job and also showcasing the player to the fullest in terms of how they are the hero of the game, we want to continue placing importance on both of these aspects moving forward. If you are frustrated by our more backbench role in Dawn Trail's MSQ, that'll likely be welcome news. To talk about that last part first, I really liked us taking the backseat in Dawn Trail, even though I do feel like in some cases I wish they would have gone harder for it. Like, I don't know, for like an example, like when Wook fights Bakul Jaja, I almost wish we weren't playing as Wook and we were playing as us, like helping them fight Bakul Jaja and kind of like cheering from the sidelines and taking care of other enemies. But, you know, it's whatever. That's one thing. The major point of this that I'm seeing a lot of people dooming about online is when he says, people might think of it as an expansion of the system we have in the game, so the players who already like the way things are can feel at ease that nothing is going to change for their experience, but we're trying to do something new on top of what we already have. People are kind of taking that as saying that this fabled 8.0 job update isn't actually going to change things up at all. I think people are reading into it way too much. He does kind of weirdly say bringing out the uniqueness of each job, and players who like things the way they are can feel at ease knowing nothing's going to change for their experience. It does feel a bit like those statements are clashing with each other. But he also specifically says, he says, people might think of it as an expansion of the system that we have. He mentions the system, and I think he more so means the job system is remaining the same, and we aren't going to get something like merit points or class trees or cross class returning. But to be honest, just like he says here, we just don't know. FanFest 2026 is when we're going to really learn about something like that. We aren't going to learn it from an interview at a Gamescom. Another highlight of 7.3 is a sequence where the Warrior of Light and their companions investigate an old research lab. Again, I'll steer clear of narrative spoilers, but it's an extended section featuring some light puzzle elements that require studying the environment, talking to NPCs, and putting together the pieces to solve. It's not quite blueprints in terms of complexity, it's a refreshing change of pace that puts you in the thick of proceedings as the player, instead of feeling like you're just being dragged along while other characters around you talk to each other. It's not necessarily the case that that kind of experience will always be incorporated into the main scenario, but if the idea is interesting and we think it would be fun for the main scenario, then there is a possibility we could incorporate it. Speaking of player response, he says, of course, players who want to immerse themselves in the story and really experience it as much as they can found it really interesting. On the other hand, there are some players who want to rush through the main scenario as fast as they can, and for them, this kind of element was more of a burden for them and it got in the way. But at the end of the day, the important thing is the experience of the players, and the story is a part of that. We want to take a look at what's good feedback we received and what bad feedback we received, and we can look at making the best of all that feedback in order to create something new. I honestly, in my opinion, I think they should ignore story skippers when they're planning this kind of thing. I think puzzles and making the MSQ more interactive is really cool and fun, and I really want to see more of it. But I also understand from their perspective, they do have to cater to all types of players. I did see a suggestion somewhere that was like, maybe if you're taking too long on the puzzle, Alphino or some smart NPC kind of chimes in and goes, oh, I figured this out. And then they can solve it for you if you're having trouble or you just want to speed through it. And I guess, if you want to really immerse yourself in the story and your Warrior Light is an idiot, you can do that too to get more immersed. Yeah. Unfortunately, if you're a story skipper, that might cause some small progress blockers. They usually would skip all the text just to get to the end of the MSQ, but this time around they actually need to read the text in order to clear that portion. He says it's difficult for us to tweak that in a way that it's accommodating for the players who really want to immerse themselves and enjoy it as much as they can, and also for those players who just want to rush through everything as fast as possible and play the latest extreme trial. Yeah, that's tricky. It's a tough balance, but I think giving people the option to just skip it if they really want to, and just leaving that on the table maybe works. I don't know. I guess it all depends on how they do it. With Dawn Trail now over, there's one more question. Who ended up as Yoshida's favorite character? We really put a lot of hard effort and work to make sure all the character stories would reach their completion in 7.3. And because of all that effort and attention, it's very difficult if you ask me to choose just one as my favorite. He thinks for a while and then points to the expansion's youngest star, Galulja. When we look at Galulja, he's still a child. Out of all the characters we depicted in Final Fantasy XIV, I think he may be the youngest in terms of age. Even though he is a child, he has a very strong foundation and a strong standing, but at the same time, he's also malleable, as it were. I think that goes without saying, because he is a child. But when it comes to depicting the trajectory of his emotions, I think that was one area we did that really stands out. Another example is Lamati and Kawana taking him in as part of the family. Showing that link and bond of them becoming family was another area that stood out. In a similar regard, I'd also bring up the example of Kakuya and Erenvel and their bond together as a family as well. I think those are probably my favorite characters from Dawn Trail. Those bonds now forged. It looks like we're getting ready to set off to new pastures. Quite where that'll be remains to be seen. The frozen waters of Blindfrost, Halthard's North, Marasidia perhaps. Your guess is as good as mine, but I'd make sure to pack your best combat gear. Good stuff. So, just to really talk about the main thing that people are really dissecting in this interview, which is the job thing. I think a lot of people are looking at this and they're taking what they want to hear and they're running with it. There's already a thread on the forum that is, like, the last time I checked, it was like 10 pages long. And it's about how this is confirmation that there will be no changes to the jobs. People are making clickbait YouTube videos. They're talking about how this is confirmation they're going to keep the 2-minute meta and that's how the game's going to die. I've also seen people say that 8.0 job shakeup is going to completely change the game. It's going to turn it into like an action game and everyone's going to get a universal dodge like in FF16 or something. All I see when I really read this interview and I read the answer to that question is that I think this is kind of a non-answer. I think he is kind of dodging the question and saying the jobs are going to change, but ultimately the systems are going to be the same, and Final Fantasy XIV is still going to feel like Final Fantasy XIV. And obviously, Yoshi P is not going to give a whole lot of information in an interview like this. No offense to PC Games N, this is a great interview. They've done great interviews in the past, but this isn't the right avenue to drop hard details on 8.0 job changes and job updates. He's not going to confirm or deny, if we're getting big changes, other than to say, yeah, there's going to be changes in 8.0. This isn't the avenue for that information to come out. That's going to be in live letters, FanFest, like he even says in here, right? FanFest 2026 is when we're going to learn about those 8.0 job changes. I think these interviews are a really great place to get insight from Yoshi P and learn stuff like what was his favorite character in the MSQ and stuff like that. But if you're looking at them for huge bombshell news, I really would temper your expectations when you're reading stuff like this and don't get so dragged into, clickbait videos and stuff like that. Just temper your expectations when you're reading stuff like this. But that's all for me. Tell me what you think about the interview in the comments, and just try to remember, take these for what they actually are. Just remember, take these for what they actually are. Also, I'll say, I know I've made a couple of these interview videos in a row, but I am working on a more, kind of interesting video. Hopefully that's coming soon. I've just been kind of working hard on it in the background. So subscribe when you want to see that, and you can even click the bell so you get a notification too. Anyway, have a good one. If you liked this video, then you'll love it when I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/NexusRequiem. I stream whenever I want, and I don't make a schedule. Maybe I will someday. And you can watch me. And also, I'm on Blue Sky. I'm Demon's Souls on Blue Sky. Someone got Demon's Souls before I could, so I had to add another S. I don't talk on Twitter anymore because everybody there is a Nazi. Please go to Blue Sky and talk to me about Final Fantasy.